Okay, so welcome back to the shop. We are about to make one last piece. This is the final part I need to create, and that's the pickguard for the guitar. So the plan I'm going to go with is I'm going to make a pattern out of 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood, and the reason for that is cutting plastic on the CNC is a little bit of a pain in the butt, and this gives me repeatability, and I can actually mark for the drilling of the holes. And so the other half piece of this is that pickguard is beveled heavily on one of the edges, and I don't have a V-groove bit that is the right angle, but I do have a chamfering bit that's the right angle. So you'll see some of that later, but we're getting set up to cut a pattern. We're getting set up to cut a pattern here. I'm going to take my 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood, and I've drawn some center lines, and I'm going to place it. I don't know where that's from. It's just an accent I came up with. Weird. So we got our 1/8-inch router bit or end mill, and we're just going to do the usual, get set up to cut some passes. I'll bring you back when we're ready to do that. When we're ready to do that, I'll bring you back when we're set up for that cut. Okay, we're all set up here. We got our 1/2-inch plywood on our 1/2-inch MDF. We got our 1/8-inch router bit into place. Don't know why I'm doing that accent. I'm amusing myself is what I'm doing. Yeah, so we got the 1/2-inch MDF down on the table, screwed the 1/2-inch plywood to it. We're centered, we got our G-code loaded. We're gonna let her rip here, and we're just gonna cut out this pattern. We're gonna cut this out. We'll be back. Okay, so we took our computer numeric controlled router machine, and we put in a 1/8-inch 125 thousandths router bit end mill, excuse me. I don't know what's up with me in this accent today, but I'm doing it. Owning it. Alright, so the pattern's done. Alright, so the pattern's done. And I left some tabs so that it wouldn't go flying out, because you don't want your shit flying out all over the place. Now I'm going cocked. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's wrong with me. But we're gonna take out these screws here, and I'll show you the final product. Apparently today is accent day, and there you are. We got our 3 tabs. We're gonna go over to the bandsaw now, and we're gonna cut those out, and then we'll flush them up nice and pretty. And that will be, then we'll hold it up to the hardware on the guitar and see if that'll work. Hardware on the guitar. That was for Leo. Right, we'll be here at the bandsaw. Cut out this pattern real fast. There's one part. Now I got to get down into this one. I got to get that tab out of there. So what I think I'll just do is pop this part out, and then we'll come over this way and free it. That way it works a lot better. Alright, so now what you got here is your typical bandsaw, and it's just got a blade. I don't know if any of that will stay in at all. That's pretty lame. But so now all I got to do is flush these up nice and pretty. You can see the remnant of the tab there. We'll fix that next. Alright, so the big reason I did a pattern so I could do multiple tries without doing it on the plastic itself. That comes right flush with the end of the pickup, which is what I wanted. And we got a rounded body, so it's going to sit up off the body anyhow. But it nestles itself right nicely in between the pickups. This looks beautiful. I like it. I like what we have for size. That is exactly what it needs to be. So now we can get set up. We'll get these tabs flush trimmed off. And we'll be ready to make the one out of plastic. Okay, so I bought a bunch of this 5-ply pickguard material. I have plenty of it. And I got my pickguard labeled properly. So what you got here is you got your labels so you don't mess up the which direction you, maybe it's a little, I don't know. Still can't get off that accent. So taping it to this side is what gets you that shape. That's the orientation. This is the side, this is the way it would look if it were on the left-hand guitar. This is the way it would look on a righty guitar. So you tape to the face you want that's the orientation to be. And I think what I'm going to do, one of the things is, so when I do this, this thing's going on to the pattern and it's going to stay there until I get the bevel done. And the bevel, actually, let me show you. The bevel is done by a chamfering bit, and that is this guy here, which is just a 60-degree chamfering cutter. It's actually called a mini raised panel cutter, but it just happens to cut a 60-degree angle, which I already had, so I'm using it. But in order for this to work, the pattern will ride along the bearing, but it's going to be cutting on this face. And so I want to make sure that it's fully supported where I'm going to need to bevel. So I'm thinking what I'll do is maybe put a little outline of where the beveling needs to go so that I make sure I get some tape there. The bevel's going here, here, and all around this face. Like that. So I need to make sure that I have tape there, because what I don't want to have happen is have the bit cutting on it and lifting or pushing it away from itself. That'll leave us a really vibraty, chattery cut. So the more I get up here, the other half of that is, if I'm going to put tape all the way up to the edge, it's going to overhang, I think, which then means I have to get the tape off there so that it doesn't gum up my bit so bad. So the less tape I cut into, the better. But the more tape I have for support, also the better. So I think I'm just going to go diagonally here, and then I'll cut most of that excess off after I get that part down. And I'll just come back here with a very small strip, and that'll basically cover this whole dang thing with tape, which means it's going to be fun to get off of here. I don't know if this plastic dissolves in denatured alcohol or not, but we'll exercise patience as I have been learning to do this entire build. And so now I've got it pretty coated all the way in the entire perimeter with tape. So it's definitely not coming off of there. It's definitely not going to come off of there. I'm going to grab a knife and trim all this stuff down a bit, and I'll bring you back in a minute. Okay, so we've got it all stuck down real well, just barely any hanging over the edge, so I trim as little as possible. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bandsaw. I'm going to cut this as close as possible, and I'm going to go bandsaw and cut as close to the edges of this as I possibly can, and we'll make it nice and flush. I think we're best off going this route. Yep. Okay. Take the fence back. Begin the cut. We'll just do it kind of rough at first, and then we'll clean it up after that. Okay, so we got it trimmed very close to the lines. I think, yeah, the excuse me, the router bit I'm using, the flush trim bit I'm using is a 1/2 inch diameter bearing, and these corners are smaller than that. So I'm going to see what I have in the way of a 1/4 inch flush trimmer. I don't think I have any. No, I don't have a 1/4 inch flush trim bit. So what I think I'll do then is I'll use this 1/2 inch, and I'll get it really close, you know, and then I'll come in with a rat tail file or something and rasp those tight. When I won't have to worry about the bevel because the bevel doesn't go into these corners. Cool. Okay, I think that is truth then. We are ready to flush trim away. And that's that. It routs really cleanly, actually. I was surprised. I was worrying about a little bit of meltiness or melting, but it cut really well. Didn't have too much trouble. I'm going to throw this quickly, throw this in the vise, and just get these corners nice and clean, and then we'll come back and work out this bevel. Alright, so we're in the vise now. I'm just going to take this tiny little file and flush myself up here with the inside corner where it's a little proud here. Alright, it's kind of tough to tell with this protective stuff on it, so kind of holding off, but I think I got the corners reasonably uniform. We're going to get set up to bevel these ends, but I wanted to catch a thing about why you have to mark left and right and all that sort of stuff, and be cautious and conscious of it. With a 5-ply, where can you see the center ply in there is so much thicker, or sorry, not the center, but there's a white layer that's way thicker. So there's a thin layer of black, thin layer of white, thin layer of black, thick layer of white, thin layer of black. You want the thin layer of black, then the thick layer of white first, not on the bottom. So when you bevel, this is the one that gets accentuated. If you go the other way, it doesn't look doesn't look right. It's in the wrong place. So there's that. I'm gonna swap out for that cutter that I need for rounding or for beveling, and we're gonna have at this. Okay, we've got our chamfer bit here in place. It's a little high right now. What we're trying to do is get the depth set, and I'm going to sneak up on it, but I need to get it low enough that I can hit this bearing and follow the pattern and not cut into the wood. So we don't want to see, that looks about like our max height. So I'm going to drop it way down here until I'm going to drop it down until we're before that wide. Yeah, we're ahead of the wide white. We're just barely tapping into the wide white. Can you guys see that? You can see we're just tiny bit cutting into that thick white. So we're gonna use that as our starting point. Now I have to be very careful. When I'm stopping and starting, I can't go this way. I can go this way, but I can't go in because I don't want to bevel into this, because I don't want to bevel into these areas. I only want to bevel this edge, this long edge, and be very careful with that. So what I'm going to do is set up to go this route, and then yeah, this will be a nice shot too. So yeah, I think we're ready to try this. I just need to make sure I'm very careful where my depth is. I'm going to take my depth down just a tiny bit more. Yeah, we're going to take this in a couple of passes, I think. I'm going to take one pass, make sure I don't fall off the corner here, and then we'll see what happens. Well, that went pretty well, I think. I'm pretty pleased with the outcome. It's the shape I need. The bevel is good. I got it to just a hair below the line where the white shows through, or the bottom layer of black shows through. I did not fall into the cavities I was worried about falling into. Got a good miter there. This little bevel's nice. This little area is good. It came out pretty smooth. I think I'm going to have to file it just a little bit to make it perfectly smooth, but it's looking pretty good. So I think we've got ourselves, I'm going to leave that on there actually, that'd be smart. I think we've got ourselves a pick guard. Now we just have to make a hole for the mount and figure out how to get it mounted on this side here. There's a bracket that comes on somewhere in this area. So we'll bring it back when we get to that point. Okay, and now we're slide it into place, which is about right there is where it goes. And this is about where it's going to end up looking. We'll get the bracket underneath here to hold it, and just center it in between these guys and lifting it up right there. Just a little flex to hold it, and it just takes a little bit of it. So we're just going to work out positioning and getting that mounted. I'm going to make the hole here. I think that uses a countersunk screw. So we're going to work that bit out, and then we'll work out the bracket. Alright, I got some screws. I'm just going to make a mark. I need to make a point for the screw to hold this, and I'm going to eyeball it. I'm sure there's a precise measurement here, but I'm going to go with right about right there. How's right there feel? Feels pretty good to me, I'd say. And we're going to drill a hole and countersink there. I was going to try to find my center punch, but I don't have it here, so yeah, we're going to put a hole in this for a screw, and then that'll go here. Yep. So we'll get that ready. Alright, back over here, we need to make a hole in the body now. And we'll probably pull it back just a tiny little bit here. Go right about there. Take this screw here and just make a tick. Hopefully where I need it to be. There it is. Now we'll take our scribe and just dent it a little bit more. There. And then we can drill our pilot hole for it. Don't need to go real deep. That's probably far enough. And now this one has a mount. Take our screwdriver and our screw. So what I'm doing is getting this one in position because it's kind of a pivot point for the whole guard. The other mount has an adjustability to it that will allow you to move it and tilt it and get things symmetrical and parallel. And there we go. Just about there. Now this can still wiggle around a bit. Yeah, and then this little guy will go under here and hold it. So I think I'm just going to pick this place right there is fine, I think. And I just need to, oh, we're going to go through binding on that one too. Okay, just need to mark for this hole here. Okay. I'm gonna go right in there, I think. Yeah, that looks about right. I'm sure there's a more precise way to find this potential spot, but where I'm doing this is gonna have to be fine. Okay. Do the same thing here. Drill through some binding. Should be enough. Okay. Now we take our hardware here. Yeah, this looks about right. And all we have to do then is get this set where it goes, like so. And then the only thing left is to glue the plastic to it. Alright, final piece to get glued on at least. We're going to do this little block down here to this mount. So I'm just going to use some epoxy. I'd love to use CA here, but I just can't use CA. So I'm just going to do a drop or so of each type, because I really don't need very much. 2 drops is going to be more than enough. Just going to let it go till it drips. There's one. I'm going to mix it up with a Q-tip real good here. It's pretty much entirely absorbed by the Q-tip, which is fine. I'm going to wring that out on the surface here. Leave as much of that behind as I can there. Now, to just place it where I want it, and I'm going to have to just hold it here. And this is it. Take 5 minutes and it'll dry. Alright, the pickguard is now on. Good and solid, ain't going anywhere. That's good. I'm going to find a different screw here. This is not as pretty as I'd like. I'd like a better screw there. But other than that, that part is done. The only thing left to do now is drilling for the strap peg holes. And so the first one is in about a 1/4 inch from the edge of the seam here of the glue line, from the neck to the body. And then it's centered. So what I think I'll do is take a peek here. Let's see how tough it'll be to center that. We are right about 2, so that's easy to center. So I'm going to take a pencil. Oh, you know where the center line is? It's the seam. Duh, Beamer. So I'm just gonna go to a 1/4 inch on either side of this, and then my line will be at the glue joint there. Right there. We'll take our punch or scribe here. And we'll just make ourselves a little seam splitting divot right there. Okay, so we've got our center line marked. We're gonna drill straight down into the body here. Make sure we drill deeply enough. Yeah. Okay. So now we'll take our strap button, a little more wax here. Okay. And then, real quick tightening here. I should stand for this. And we are now snug. And there's some washers that'll go underneath that, but this tells me my screws are right the way they need to be. Okay. We'll do the end now. That's this end here. Alright, so now we're just going to lay out to put a pilot hole right here in the center. And so just going to find my middle point here. I'll start by getting it pretty close. And then see how far off we are here. Just use a little tiny mark right there. And right there, and that's about 1/16 of an inch apart, so we got close, and they're short, so we're just going to add a 32nd, about like that, and then one more. We didn't quite make it to the center there, just about though. We're close. We're 64th now. That's probably okay. Erase our marks here. And then yep, there we go. Okay. So right about there, and then I'm going to just eyeball the center point for this binding, because it's basically, or not binding, but this perloid here. Around. That looks about right. It looked about right till I moved. Yeah, there, it looks fine to me. Just make ourselves a little divot here for the drill bit to start in. Okay, that's where that hole is going. Let's make sure it looks about centered. It does. And I'm headed straight in. And that should be the screw hole for that. I'm a little concerned about the screw, the thickness of the screw, screwing around with my binding, so I'm going to come at it with a slightly larger drill just on the plastic part so that it doesn't get too crazy for me. Basically, I'm making a shank hole in the I'm making a shank hole in the purloin. Just a real light, just enough to buy that stuff some clearance. Okay, that should be enough clearance now. Yeah, okay, so now we'll throw a little bit of wax on it here. And push it through the hole of this. And we are ready to start driving. And there it goes in. Now we've got strap buttons. This is cool, huh? And that will hold our, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. So I've got one last thing I've got to do to consider this process nearly complete. All right, the last operation, I think this is the last, at least last cuts on the wood, is the headstock. The tuning machines need to have their screws placed. We need to mount them. So what I'm doing is I've got them kind of loose here, and I want to make sure that axially they go the same. They cross the center line parallel with each other, or coincident with each other. I don't know what the word for that is, but basically they should line up with each other. And so far, there may be a better way to do this, but I'm seeing do that, get it flush on those, because the holes should be pretty close to coincident across each other. That seems to me like a good way to visually get them aligned. And then I'll take a punch and make a tiny little tick where the holes are, and that's where we end up drilling. I'm going to take the peg off here, and we aren't going to drill through the peg. That's asking for disaster there. So we'll take our peg off, and then I've got to find the right size screw for the right size drill for these screws here. I can totally see the screw, the punch marks clearly right there. And we're going to do the next set right on up the line. I'm going to get them all marked, and then we'll drill them all. Alright, so I'm leaving the pickguard off for now just because it's not necessary at this moment, but there's very little left to really do. I've got the strap pegs are in place, the pickguard has its mounts, the tuning machines are now screwed down, so I think we're ready for something that may or may not be very big, bad, or, well, I'll just do this and you'll see what I mean. We're going to put some strings on this thing. Not the final. I don't have the nut slotted at all, but I want to make sure that these angles and nothing collides and I can reach the bridge and the action isn't going to be like 6 miles in the air while putting strings on. We're putting a string or two on. I'm basically going to take the high and low E's, the 10 and the 46, 10 and the 46. Yeah, we're about to put some strings on this bad boy in a limited fashion. This is a big deal. Start with the skinny one. I fully expect this to be completely bungled because the bridge and the tailpiece heights aren't set at all. I did nothing to them. But check this out, a string's going on. Okay, we're covered there. We're well past the bridge here, so the tailpiece height is fine. Yeah, our action is super low there. But we're gonna throw a... This is cool, I'm putting a string on this thing. This is huge, right? Big deal. I'm probably spinning this the wrong way. But that's alright. I'm putting a string on it! This is enormous. It's not notched, so it's not going to sit quite where it's supposed to, I don't think. You know what I should have done? Totally should have spun this the other way. But so here's what I'm seeing. It's a little tile there, but I think it's going to be fine. It's not hitting on the pickup there. Pickup's a little bit high, though. I think I will probably... I have this desire, I think. Maybe I should turn that pattern. I think I might need to spin this one around. There's a string on it. And it makes a sound. That's the first noise this guitar has ever made. Can you hear it? Way too low right now, but come on, that's awesome. That's cool. Okay, so one thing I see is I think my pickup surround over here, I think I have it backwards. So that's easy enough to fix. I'm going to hold off on putting slots in the nut, but I've already seen enough to know I'm pleased. That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. We're going to put a 46 on the other end of it too, just to get a full clear sense of oop, we got kinky strings. They're supposed to be slinky strings, not kinkies. That's awesome. There was a string on this guitar just now. Just want to put that out there. There was a string on this guitar just now. There's about to be another one. I'm going to see what the bass string looks like too. It's clearing the bridge as well. That's good. Another string's going on this thing. It's hard to do backwards though, I'll tell you that much. Make sure we're in place there. I should have grabbed my winder. Here, I'm going to bring it over to myself here. This'll help. The bass string is going on. Oop, I fell under it. I want to go over it. Or sorry, I fell over it. I wanted to go under it. There we go. There's a string on it. Yeah, I think I just need to flip that thing around. The action is only going to get better. You hear it? That's so cool. gonna make music soon. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna flip this around and see if that helps any. I think it's taller on this side than it is on this side. And there's a lot more clearance on this side, so I'm gonna see what happens when I flip that around. That is so freaking cool. Two things just happened there. I think I wet myself, which is probably not the most newsworthy part. But the second most important, or the second thing that happened, is I just made this thing make sound. Yep. All right, so we'll, I'm still coming off my giddiness of, I had it making sound, that I just want to get this next step. I just want to flip this pickup ring around. I think it's just a matter of spinning the pickup ring. It's actually, which sounds simple, but it's actually not, because you got to take the, you got 6 screws you're contending with and 2 springs, and it's kind of annoying, but it's all right. Now I know which way I should have had it. Okay, let's throw that bass string back on there. There's my tailpiece. No, that's better. That's way better. Yeah, that's going to do just fine. I can even raise this up, because as the tension on the, as the nut, as I file the nut to bring the action way down on this side, I'm going to end up having to raise the bridge anyway, so. That's cool, that's cool. Alright, I'm resisting the temptation to file the nut yet. I don't want to do that yet. Because if I do it, I won't want to put the finish on it. And the finish is the hardest part. So cool! Alright. Yeah, that was a better arrangement. Way better clearance. Clearance. Way better clearance. Alright. It's time to, yeah. It's time to break this whole thing down and start doing the final sanding. We're ready to put the finish on this thing. This guitar is very nearly done. Such a cool thing. I'm kind of freaking out. This is pretty neat. Not freaking out. I'm having it's been a long road. It's been a lot of learning. It's been a very fun process. I've had a blast doing this. I'm kind of nostalgic. I'm kind of sad that I'm done with the woodworking already. 42 parts, I think. This will probably be for part 42. Maybe 41, not sure. But yeah, I'm kind of feeling a tiny bit of that end of the adventure, but it's not over yet. The real adventure will come in making this thing finish and look pretty, look the greatest. And then I have to set it up, because the setup is as critical to the sound as everything else I've been doing. So yeah, so this is almost there. I've already made sure the wiring will fish through. Might as well think through this. I've got the strap pegs on, I've got the pickguard on, I've got the bridge tailpiece pickups, neck is in, frets are on, binding, nut, truss rod cover, tuning machines, headstock plate inlay, headstock is shaped right. Everything is done except the final sanding, and finish goes on after that. Freaking cool. Freaking cool. Well, we'll get that next.